a comment if you don't have the chat bar,
Mm.
and we will be able to pick it up here. If you're next, just tag me, and we'll be able to get to it. So I think that's kind of it, right?
Yep, that's it. So, folks, do bang down your questions because without your questions, there are no answers. How philosophical is that, Yevgeny? Without the questions, there are no answers.
No answers, and in fact, the only reason why we exist and operate is to answer your questions. Oddly enough, it just kind of dawned on me. Like I've always been thinking, what's the purpose of
Well,
life?
yeah, I mean, to be fair, the reason I exist appears to be to clean up after my children, make their food, walk my dog, hoover, not vacuum my house, because if I said hoover, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to the Americans. So yeah, I exist for that reason. Right, Ilya has asked us what questions can be asked. Ask us anything. So with
Seriously,
the
just ask your question, just
just ask it.
whatever's
I
on your
mean,
mind.
clearly
I
Amazon
don't care.
interview related.
Amazon. Yeah.
Not sure I can answer a huge amount beyond that, other than maybe giving you some good advice on how to get German Shepherd dog hair out from between radiators. But broadly speaking, let's focus on Amazon and Amazon interviews, and we can take it from there.
Cool. Well, we've got our first
Okay.
question. Do you want to take that one?
Uh, it's not really a question, it's an observation so far from Sahil. So hang on, let me pull that up and then hopefully Sahil will put the rest of the question in.
Yeah, guys,
So,
just a reminder, like a little housekeeping. There's a limit on the characters, like how many characters you can type in the chat. So if it's a multi-part question, just label it like first part, second part, that sort of thing. But Gigi, over to you.
okay, so hope we're doing well today. To be honest with you, I haven't been very well for the past few days, but I'm at least out of bed today. But thank you for asking. You're currently a computer science student. Very good. Good field to be working in. I'm trying to get my son to focus on computer science and actively seeking an internship in this field. Okay. I've applied on the Amazon website, but I didn't get any interview. Okay. So is there a question associated with that, Sahil? If there is, let us know because so far this is just kind of a statement of facts. So let us know what your specific question is and we will do our best to answer it. So let's just pop that one back in. Okay.
Yeah, so the question from Ilya here is about the split between um, algorithmic coding question and system design for senior/staff positions. So his understanding is that the more senior you get, the more system design it tends to be. So I can't tell you the exact split because I think like how do you measure that by the number of rounds that are algo versus system design versus by how much time spent. I don't think anyone's tracking, so I can't tell you that. The one thing I will tell you, and this is what our candidates are confirming to us, right? And by the way, yeah, as I mentioned, none of us are techies. We never were. We didn't have any tech jobs, so we were both in sales, marketing, business development, those types of roles. However, from our candidates, we know that indeed the minute you get to something like an L6, system design becomes a much more important part of the evaluation versus your lead code type stuff. So your assumption is indeed correct. Gonna pop
Okay.
this question back out.
Um, okay, let's just do this one for Sahil. So the question is, how can you tailor your resume so that you can get an interview request? Okay, so I mean, we haven't seen your resume, so we couldn't pass a view on what or speculate on why it might be that you didn't get invited for interview. Um, Obviously there's a lot of stuff out there as regards what a good resume looks like, and it looks very different for someone who's a student versus someone who is an experienced leader, and what exactly that they're looking for in a student's resume for an internship is going to differ enormously depending on obviously which type of internship you're applying for. I think the key thing for a resume when you're a student is to really pull out any information that you have or any experiences you have around kind of jobs that you've done, kind of part-time jobs, anything that you've done volunteering wise, any kind of work experience that you've had. You're really trying to help your interviewer understand in a resume from a student point of view is what contributions have you made in the kind of the things that you have done, even if in terms of maybe you run what's the word I'm looking for? Clubs or associations at your school, university, college, whatever it is. They're trying to really understand, are you a person that has an impact? And the way you qualify and quantify impact as a student is obviously going to be different to how you do that as a professional. But if your resume doesn't have any information or data in it about how you have made a meaningful contribution to something, that might be why you're struggling to get interviews, because other candidates will be calling out the impact that they have had on clubs, jobs, part-time jobs that they've had, or work experiences that they've had, etc., etc. So that's what I would be focusing on more generically in terms of the specifics for individual internships and exactly what a recruiter or a recruiting leader might be looking for in that particular program. I can't speak to specifically because there are so many different internship programs. So I hope that helps. Should we pop that one
Excellent.
back?
Yeah, yeah, good. Right, questions from Slava here. So, if I failed an interview, should I wait for 6 months for the next try? So, Slava, it really depends on what interview that was. As of the most current information that we have, if you fail a screen, whether it's a recruiter screen or a hiring manager screen or a team member screen, um, there is no cooling off period as such for in the absolute majority of cases. So you should be able to keep applying. And our recommendation is always apply to roles that are relevant. Do not apply randomly. Doesn't look good in your profile. Um, Now, if you failed in a panel interview or a loop, which is what Amazon calls it, then um, I think the latest what we're hearing from candidates is that Amazon is beginning to enforce the cooling off period. I believe it's 12 months, right, Gigi? The
Mhm.
latest that we've got.
12 months.
Yeah, so 12 months. And essentially, if you start applying to roles after receiving a not inclined in your panel interview, then you will it should automatically essentially render your application as ineligible. And I don't really know what status you will see in that system, but essentially it's meant to be either automatic or semi-automatic. So now, uh, do we know how rigorously this is being enforced from candidates? So I haven't heard any feedback from candidates in terms of how rigorously and consistently it's being enforced. But what we have heard from various different sources, including our candidates, is that Amazon is moving to make it more rigorous. That if you fail a loop interview, then you need to wait for 12 months before you can reapply. I don't know, I'm not sure, Gigi, if you have any other perspective or information on this.
No, that's it. That's what I have.
Cool beans. Let's pop this back off.
For this one for Charlene. Okay. Oh, that looks like a nice profile picture. Is that a waterfall or something in the background? That looks rather lovely. Okay. So your question isn't about the interview anymore because you received an offer last week. Well, let's just start with congratulations. Well done. You're going to start mid-May. Okay. So regarding the workload, how do you manage? Okay. Um, and then you said you don't know what to expect. So I'm going to pop this back in here. So look, I'll give you my perspective and then Yevgeny can give his because we're two different people and therefore we've had two very different experiences at Amazon. And your experience will be different and everyone else will have different experiences. So here's my perspective on it anyway. The workload at Amazon is highly variable. So I've had periods in my Amazon career in the same role where I've been absolutely hammered as far as work is concerned. I've had other periods in Amazon in the same role where I've not been in a position where I've been hammered and it's been much more comfortable and it's peaks and troughs and I believe that's true of any company that you'll work in. Now, obviously, the level of the peaks and troughs differs. There are some companies that just don't work at the pace that Amazon works, but they have peaks and troughs that are relative to their organizations in terms of that baseline, and Amazon is the same. And then there are different teams that work at a different rate. There are some teams that are intentionally set up to be incredibly lean, and therefore those teams do have a higher kind of per capita workload than other teams who perhaps are set up to be less lean. I'm not quite sure what the I won't say fatty because that seems unfair. So again, it's highly, highly variable. But if you're just asking me for general career advice about how I manage my workload, the first thing is to be quite aware of what you're doing. So, plan your work, document what you have in the week coming, prioritize what you have in the week coming. If there's something that you can do it quickly. If there's something that you know is going to take you a while, get it started sooner rather than later. Have open communication with your line manager. Be honest with your line manager. If you genuinely don't believe you have the capacity to do what's being asked of you, let your line manager know. But go with solutions, not problems. Instead of saying, I just can't do all of this work, make some recommendations about what you might be able to deprioritize, what you might be able to reduce the scope on, what you might be able to perhaps share with someone else in the team or someone else in the organization. How you manage your workload, in my opinion, from a strategy point of view, changes because the nature of the work and the intensity of the work is going to change on an ongoing basis. But I think the key to it for me is be aware of what you have on your plate, plan how you're going to manage your workload. Don't let your workload manage you, and be open with your communications with your line manager in terms of the resources that you have available and what you believe you can and can't do, and come with a plan if you have to go effectively tell them that you can't manage that workload. That's my high level philosophy. Yevgeny, I'm sure you have other words of wisdom.
Well, I guess my approach has been first of all, when you just get into Amazon, you'll probably find it hard to understand what your capacity is versus what this particular team requires. Like I certainly, it took me a while to understand in an Amazon environment, given their work requirements in my team, what I can actually fit into my day. I think if you overpromise and you find yourself stretched in the beginning, that's probably okay because you're still going to be learning about what you can actually kind of parse through your mental and physical faculties as you learn what you can and cannot do. But and this is when my kind of first bit of advice is learn very quickly what you can and cannot do, because what I found, and this has been my experience, has been pretty consistent in Amazon, is that it's a bit like if you go into an underground, right, and it's packed with people, and someone steps on your foot. Unless you tell them that you are uncomfortable, they're not going to step off your foot. So you need to know exactly what you're capable of, or you need to learn what you're capable of, right? And this is a new environment for you. And then you need to advise your manager, who ultimately distributes the work, what you can and cannot do, and what you can and what you recommend to prioritize. Now, I am. I'm not sure kind of in what in what sort of under what angle Gigi mentioned come up with solutions as to what you can do with your workload. As a higher, as a leader of teams, like my teammates would have my team would come to me and said, look, I physically have too much work. I propose to prioritize this, and the
That's what I
rest is
meant by the solutions.
right.
Instead of going and just complaining that I have too much work,
Yeah,
you say, I don't have the capacity. Here's my recommendation as to how to prioritize my work.
correct. And that I support wholeheartedly. But you do need to do it, and don't expect your manager to read your mind, because your manager, like yourself, who will be a very very busy individual. So for sure, hands down.
I think one final philosophical point I will make, because I think I'll feel bad if I don't do this. The truth is, and I think I've said this on some videos that we have in the YouTube channel about the Amazon culture, As long as you keep giving, Amazon will keep taking. No one in Amazon is going to say, stop, you can't do any more. You need to stop. It's up to you to own that responsibility. And if you genuinely can't absorb any more work, you have to draw the line. You have to define the borders and the parameters as to what is I don't want to use the word tolerable because that's not the word I mean, but what is achievable in terms of your capacity and the lines that you're drawing, and communicate those, because otherwise if you keep saying yes, Amazon will keep doling it out. You have to take responsibility for managing that. And
Or
I
if
think
you don't say
Amazon.
anything,
Hmm?
they'll assume you can take more, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. They assume you can because you're a leader. And as a leader, they expect you to be a grown up and take responsibility for it. And no leader in Amazon, past, present, or future, would be objectionable as regards me sharing that information with you. Amazon will be very open about that in the context of you need to draw those lines. Otherwise, we will just keep giving to you, assuming you're fine. Cool. Well, good luck. We hope it goes well.
It's going to be a great ride.
Right. Do you want
Okay.
to pull up another one?
Yeah, yeah, cool. So,
As you just before you do that, we've had a few new folks arrive. So for everyone that's arrived, if you haven't already got the gist of this, if you want to ask a question and you're on YouTube, there's a little panel on the right hand side of your screen that you can pop your question in. If you're on LinkedIn, and I can't see any questions from LinkedIn yet, so that's interesting. If you're on LinkedIn, then you could just put a comment under the stream on LinkedIn, and that will then appear in our box here, and we'll be able to pull it up. If you're on X, unfortunately, your questions don't come through. So if you have any, just send them directly to Yevgeny and he will then call them out. Sorry about that, Yevgeny. I just thought I'd make that clear.
no, that's a great public service announcement. So, right now, Ashgar, welcome back. Welcome back. So, is there any possibility that loop will occur twice in a 2 month period? I'm not really sure how to interpret it. Gigi, maybe you can help me. Does that mean half of the loop happens in 1 month and then the other half happens in the next month, or oh, so I'm gonna let me make some assumptions about what you're asking. Are you asking me if you could interview for two different roles and have two different loops in 2 months? Um, yes, if they didn't put you on a cooling off period, then I just don't see why not. But if this is something, if your question is something different, please clarify. Two different loops. Yes. So sounds like Ashgar, I got your conversation. Yeah, I got your question correctly. No, no limit, no limit. There's no limit on how many loops you can have in whatever period of time. It really just depends on whether they were, if you're unsuccessful in one loop, is there a cooling off period or not? That's basically it. Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. And actually, I was just checking LinkedIn, and someone has posted a question there, but it hasn't come through to StreamYard, which is rather rubbish. So let me just answer that now. Um, so let me just let him know that we're going to do that now. Okay, because it was like 13 minutes ago. All right, so Amir, and sorry, Amir, LinkedIn has auto corrected your name when I replied to Ambir. So I'm really sorry if that wasn't me. I hate autocorrect. So Amir is asking over on LinkedIn. Um, he says, thanks for all the resources you put out there. You're more than welcome. Applicable to all roles, not just Amazon. Thank you. Do we have any tips for internal candidates aspiring to transfer over to different unrelated business units? So I recognize Amir. I'm not sure if he's been through Day One Careers or if Amir's just a follower on the YouTube channel, but I definitely recognize him. So do we have any tips for internal candidates aspiring to transfer? So I've got a couple, and then I'm sure Yevgeny will have a couple. So we'll do this between the two of us. So the first tip I have is network, network, network. The best way to move roles horizontally around Amazon is to make connections around Amazon, make yourself known, make sure that you identify teams that you're interested in, and open dialogues and communication with those teams. So for me, that's the first one. Second one for me is have an open conversation with your line manager. Um, Trying to do things cloak and dagger in any organization, I always think is probably a bad way to go, because eventually your hiring manager will hear that you're out there looking for other roles. So have a constructive conversation with your hiring manager. Let them know what your ambitions are. If your hiring manager is, biasing nicely towards hire and develop the best, they'll recognize that part of their responsibility is to help you grow around the organization, not just in their own team. So I would certainly speak to your hiring manager. And then the third thing I would be doing is making use of a lot of the kind of internally organized events. I don't know if they're still happening, but certainly when I was there, teams would quite often organize brown bag sessions, which is kind of like lunchtime sessions, where they might share information on their teams, on their projects, on their roadmaps, etc. So if you can get visibility of those and go along to those, it certainly gives you an insight on what that team is up to. You can ask good questions because you'll be reviewing docs with them, and that will also facilitate the networking. Those are my three. Anyway, I'll hand over to Evgeny, and he might have a few more.
Just I guess to preempt the question, well, how do you network and how do you make yourselves known? So, the way I would network is literally pick the teams that you're interested in and just impose yourself. So go to the hiring manager and just invite them for a coffee and state your intentions that
Mhm.
want to make want I want to make myself myself known. I'm curious about your team, and do it periodically. So just put it in as an invite into your calendar, and yeah, just send random messages. Like don't feel shy. And
Mm,
again, as from someone who runs a team perspective, there's absolute like interest in your team is welcome. It's like folks were dropping me messages like, hey, I'm curious about your team, such and such team. I'd be like, ooh, that's so cool. Someone's actually curious about my team. Anyway, even if the team is popular, it doesn't really matter. So just keep doing it. And the second one is, um, even if you do want to move to a team, but you haven't created that connection, but there is a role and you're desperate to move to that role, still apply. Um, my second team at Amazon, I applied cold turkey and got the role and moved and had a cracking time. But as a kind of a default way of operating, do build a network and warm up your leads.
okay,
Do the next
I'm
one.
gonna pick the
So
next one.
next one is this one is from Alex. Can I have multiple interview processes for several teams to increase my chances? What are the pros and cons?
So there's a second part as well. So let me just quickly pull that one
Uh,
up. There we go.
I heard from recruiters that submitting multiple applications for the same role family might be a red flag for a recruiter at Amazon. Is that true? I've never heard this being a red flag ever. As
Yeah,
long as
me neither. I'd love to know, Alex, which recruiter was it that said that to you? Are they a third party external recruiting company, or are they Amazon recruiters? I suspect I know the answer to that question.
yeah, this
Sorry,
is
I
weird.
interrupted you, Yevgeny. You carry on.
No, I did ask you for an opinion. I just thought this is proper weird. So no, as far as we know, there isn't any policy of any kind that applying for multiple applications for the same role or different role or different family is a red flag. Just making irrelevant applications that just doesn't look good. When you're reviewing, when you have a candidate queue to review to see who you want to pull into a phone screen, uh, you know s- you because you don't really need to sort of think that much before you discard an application. If it looks like you've just been applying randomly, then some hiring managers might just not kind of take it, take it nicely. They would consider it a piece of evidence that you have no idea what you want to do with your career. But otherwise, if you're applying to relevant roles, regardless of the family, just apply. And then, if your profile ends up being interesting to multiple teams, let them fight it out, let them battle it out, and figure out how to interview you. Sometimes it will be multiple loops. Sometimes they will decide that they don't want to waste your time and their time, and they will have half of the loop they're going to have with you, and then some other team will do the other half, and then they'll figure it out. So yeah, no, keep apply. If there are relevant roles that you're seeing and you're not in the cooling off period, apply. That would be my
Yeah, so I'm just going to pull back the original
recommendation.
question. So, does interview process for several teams increase your chances? Yes, of course it does. Just from a statistical point of view, of course it does. So I get that just kind of covers off. What are the
As long as the role's relevant, because if
Yeah,
the
for
role's
sure.
irrelevant,
Yeah, true.
doesn't.
That harms that goes the other way. But yeah,
Yeah.
as long as it's and relevant for your skill set. Now, but when we say that, many people will have different backgrounds. So maybe someone's worked in sales, maybe sometimes they've worked in marketing, maybe sometimes they've worked in business development. If you are applying to Amazon for business development, sales, and marketing roles because you've done all of those in the past, although they are relevant, and this is just a little point of qualification I want to make, although yes, they are all relevant, it does start to look like you're just throwing mud at the wall. If you're a product manager and you apply for 10 product management roles, makes total sense. You're a product manager and you want to work in Amazon as a product manager. Therefore, if you apply to be a product manager at Amazon Air, Audible, um, devices, Prime Video, all of these different teams, who cares? It's a product manager job you're after, and that makes total sense. If you have a multiplicity of different job families, regardless of your experience in the past, that's when it does look like you're trying to throw mud at a wall and see what sticks. So pros and cons, there are no cons really if you're doing it properly and applying for multiple roles in the same job family. The only cons I see is you're potentially having to do lots of interviews, but that's not necessarily a con, that's more of a pro. So I struggle to see any cons associated with making multiple appropriate applications.
Cool. Right. Who's next?
I think we've got Asgar again. I didn't read it yet, so okay. Something funny's going on with his post email loop. So how do I get the idea from an email after loop that if it's that not inclined, recycle or no offer pre-cleared because nothing's clearly mentioned and I've asked for clarity but no response. Okay. Um, so if you were a no offer pre-cleared, they would definitely write it in the email. There's no question about that. So if that isn't specified in your email, you do not have a pre-cleared offer. If you have a not inclined where you have no more information other than that, the possibility exists that you've got a not inclined recycle and a not inclined no recycle. There's no way for us to know which of those it is. And if you aren't hearing back from your recruiter, then there is no other way for you to find out whether you've effectively been put in a cooling off period. The only thing you can do to really establish you've been put in a cooling off period is continue to make applications. And if you're continuing to make applications and all of them are being rejected, then you can probably assume that you've been put in a cooling off period. And at that point, you should stop applying and wait for 12 months after the time that you got the original rejection email to make your application, because we're just going to, from those couple of data points, assume that you've been put into a cooling off period if we don't have exact clarity from a recruiter.
Cool.
Okay. Do you want to pick one?
Yeah, I'll pick the next one. Okay, uh, so I guess it's the same question from Alex about is there any downside for getting referrals to multiple roles at the same time, um, even if it's the same person who's referring you? No, I can't imagine. but there is if the roles are relevant. Just don't ask your referees, referrors, whatever,
Referrers. I think it's referrers.
refers.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ask them to apply you like randomly to roles. Just make sure the roles are relevant, but otherwise, no downside.
Yeah, I think just talking about referrals briefly, whilst we have the time, there are two different types of referrals. One is a referral where someone actually knows you, they've worked with you in the past and they can vouch for you. That's a very valuable referral, and the hiring manager will take it seriously and it will get you straight to the hiring manager. A referral from someone who you've never met before and knows nothing about you really offers you no advantage whatsoever. It really doesn't. So if you're going to use a referral, use one where that person actually can vouch for you and can speak for you and put their reputation behind you. Having said that, if you have someone inside Amazon from whom you are going to borrow credibility with their internal colleagues, make sure you use that respectfully. There is, trust me, I on many occasions had the odd one or two or three, not many occasions, I had the odd one, two, or three individuals in the organization that would just keep sending me referrals from various friends that clearly were not appropriate for the roles that they were referring to. And it got to a point where I actually told my recruiter to block that individual from making referrals. It couldn't actually stop them from making referrals, but effectively, my recruiter just never passed them on to me. So use people's credibility with some respect. You are effectively using their reputation within the organization for your benefit, and you don't want them to burn that reputation and then they lose respect inside the organization. So that's just a little bit of my philosophical approach to referrers.
Referrors.
Referrers.
Um,
Okay.
you want to pick the next one?
um okay, specifically, Vlad is asking, you're applying for a solutions architect and data engineering at the same time. Can that be considered as throwing mud at the wall? Um, hmm. I think it depends on exactly what the job description is. To me, solutions architecture and data engineering are quite different disciplines. Data engineering, as I understand it, is management of internal systems and data platforms, etc. Solutions architect is a customer facing role where you're designing solutions for customers, although you may also be designing systems internally, I suppose. Do I think that's throwing mud at the wall? Maybe, but I wouldn't want to say definitively because I don't know those two job families well enough to determine exactly how far apart they are. I can comfortably say, do I think someone applying for a product marketing manager role and a marketing manager role is throwing mud at a wall? No, they're similar enough that it wouldn't concern me. But I don't feel confident in my knowledge of those two different job descriptions to know whether I could definitively say. What do you think, Evgeny?
Um, so first of all, your definition of the roles was exactly right. So data engineering would be internal Amazon role, and then indeed solutions architects would be a client-facing role. Um, I would imagine that it really depends on your profile because in 9 cases out of 10, I would imagine that the profile of someone who is a solutions architect versus a data engineer is quite different, but it doesn't mean that there can't be a profile that is equally qualified or you've had experiences kind of doing client facing roles with your stringing together specific solutions for clients to to build systems in the cloud, or you're helping folks migrate from on-prem to cloud, and maybe that has been mostly in, I don't know, migrating their data warehouses, and as they're migrating their data warehouses to cloud solutions or something like that, and then you help them re-architect it. That's pretty possible. And so your profile might make you equally qualified for both types of roles, in which case, I don't think it's throwing mud on the wall. But then, if your profile is more focused on one type of role or the other, then it will indeed become throwing mud on the wall. And so I would then focus on the professional area and the job families where you've got a lot more experience that you can use to qualify.
And look, this is a tough one from career advice because, to my point earlier, um, even if you've got that experience behind you and you could be one of three different things, if you're applying to try and be one of those three different things, multiples of those three different things in your profile at Amazon, it does, to me anyway, as a hiring manager, and maybe Evgeny has a different point of view, it does seem to me that you're not clear where you want to go with your career. And as much as I know lots of people are applying for jobs because really they just need work, this isn't just about kind of career ambition. From Amazon's perspective, they want people who have a career vision in mind. They want to hire people who are clear about where they want to go and are confident that they want to do the work that is on offer. So, although to a degree, I'm going to agree with you, Evgeny, in the sense as a recruiter might see that it makes sense that you apply for both of those roles. For me, I would still be wondering, well, what does this person want to be? Do they really want to be a solutions architect, or are they just applying for solutions architecture because they can apply for solutions architecture and they're going to be sick of this solutions architecture role in 6 months because they don't really want to be a solutions architect? What they want to be is a data engineer. There's no single right answer to this, I'm afraid. I wish it was black and white.
No, and you can expect a question from someone. Say you get a why Amazon question, and you're interviewing for a solutions architect, but they can see that there's an application they've put in for a data engineer, and
Hmm.
expect a question saying, "Well, thank you, thanks for letting us know. Now I see that there's another application here for a completely different job family. Could you just let us know kind of what's effectively what's up with
But
that,
yeah,
and then bat it off to you?" So
you've got to
think
be
about how
prepared
would
for
you
that.
answer that question.
It's a very good point, Evgeny. Very good point. Okay, folks, I've realized we've gone way past the halfway mark and we do something in the middle of our sessions that I forgot to do that. So we are going to do that now. So quick break, Evgeny, your favorite bit. So I need a favor from you all, folks, please. Obviously, we put a massive amount of effort into this channel with the videos, with the lives, in our blogs, a huge amount of amazing free content that we're very, very proud of. And we do it with you out of love and we want to help. But at the same time, we would love something back from you. And what we need back from you is indicators of engagement. An indicator of engagement on YouTube is either a thumbs up, maybe it'll work, or it did work, or it is writing a little, oh, fireworks!
Nice firework.
Or it is writing a comment against a video that you watch. So my ask is every time you watch a video, please like it. Every time you watch a video, give me a little comment, even if it is just to say, hi Gigi, hi Evgeny, love this video. It drives engagement, and what the algorithm does is then recognizes that it's serving the content to the right person and that it's good quality content, and it will then increase the probability of our content surfacing against the keywords that you typed in, which means people get to see decent content that is accurate and based on expertise at Amazon rather some of the random complete blah, 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 that is on YouTube. So with that in mind, I'm just going to ask you to take 2 seconds to give this particular video a little bit of a thumbs up. And whilst we do that, we're going to play you a little video that amuses me, but I don't know if it's going to amuse you. Sometimes it's a little bit loud. So if you have your headphones on quite high, you might just want to pull them off your ears ever so slightly. It's 14-second long. So whilst I'm playing that, please do give us a thumbs up. Live the stream. Live the stream. Live the stream. There we go. That was probably the longest 14 seconds of your life, but thank you very much if you did like the stream. And if you didn't like the stream, quite frankly, shame on you because it would have taken you 2 seconds. So Evgeny, do you want to pick the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've got, I think I don't know, it's a multi-part or not. It's a question from L. I am in the middle of the loop, and I feel like I've used my best stories today with the bar raiser, but still have two more interviews to go. Is it better to find another angle or come up with two different stories? And also, would it be okay to repeat a story from the phone interview on the loop? Better not ever repeat. Worried to have new but not as strong stories that are not too convincing. Oh gosh, that's a tough one. The tough thing is not that we haven't had these questions before. It's just you're in the middle of the loop. That's what makes it a little bit tough. So I guess if you start from kind of what you want to achieve in the loop and work backwards, and that is you want a consistent performance, right? Like you don't want to be saving your best stories for one interviewer or the other. And the reason why is because even though, yes, you do need to convince the bar raiser that you've raised the bar, and you also need to convince the hiring manager they've raised the bar. But there's other folks in that interview panel, and the reason why they're there is because Amazon doesn't make a decision to offer you the role or not on the spot. There's a debrief at the end of your panel, and during that debrief, folks who initially came into that debrief with, let's say, a vote to hire a candidate, they may change their mind to a no hire, or they can keep their mind as hire. And the same applies to the decision that's the other way around. And it applies to every single interviewer as part of that panel, whether they're a bar raiser, hiring manager, or just an interviewer that's part of the panel that's neither the bar raiser or the hiring manager. So you don't want to be saving your best stories for any particular interviewer. Now, if you if you believe that you've saved you've used your best stories, and if you believe that you have other strong stories, but they may not be the best ones, to be honest, I would suggest that if you're in the middle of of your loop, I think it's way too late to make up stories unless you have some ready, unless you've got them from the top of your mind, you've got some of them ready. So if you've got some body of content that you've prepared for your loop, I would just go with what you have prepared. Now, I'm hoping that what you have prepared isn't completely random, because I would never go into an interview with Amazon with just having a very small number of stories that are really really good, and then there's a cliff where and everything else is just I'm completely not proud of the work that I'm doing, because if that is the case, there's nothing that we can say to you that will salvage it, unfortunately, right? And we might as well just be honest with you. So rather than trying to reuse the previous stories under a different angle, I would use what you have, and then let the chips fall where they may. And then if it's an you know if you're not successful this time, then use it as a learning opportunity for yourself to make sure that next time it happens, you spend more time preparing, and you don't go into the process thinking that you've had half of your loop, and then whoops, half of my stories have been spent. So that's kind of what I would offer, but I'm sure Gigi will have her own perspective on this,
Um,
and it could be a different perspective, by the way. We often disagree.
well, not often, sometimes.
Sometimes.
So I think I have more or less the same perspectives of Yevgeny, other than to say, unfortunately, it's a judgment call. The truth is, Amazon would prefer to see a complete list of unique and really strong answers. That's just the truth of it. That's their ideal. Obviously, not everyone can achieve that ideal. Very few of people can achieve that ideal. So it then becomes a judgment call, to Yevgeny's point. You're going to have answers that are your gold, silver, bronze, and then didn't make a medal type stories, and you have to make a judgment call really as to whether, when you're asked a question, okay, I've got two possible answers for this. One is a gold and one is a didn't even make the podium. I've used the gold before, but the other one I've got is it doesn't make the podium. Okay, then I might reuse the gold one. If the scenario is I've got two answers, one is a bronze and one is a didn't make the podium, and I've not used the bronze one, I've used the bronze one before, I'd say use the one that didn't make the podium, because the difference between the bronze one and the one that didn't make the podium isn't enormous. So I know that's a lot of cognitive load to be thinking of at any point in time, but I do think it's a great idea to categorize the stories that you have under those types of headings. I just made that one up on the spot, call it what you like. But then when you have to make that decision in the moment, you can make a binary decision about, what's the distance between the gold, silver, bronze, haven't made the podium, and the categories that I would put that answer in. And that often helps you make a judgment call. But it is a judgment call. There's no right or wrong answer that we can tell you. It's completely based on the entirety of your actual interview as to how important it is that you happen to choose one that was bronze rather than the one that was gold to repeat.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. So the
Okay.
next one is yours.
Yeah, so I'll do this quickly for Miguel. Oh, that is so cute. I love a cute profile picture. Miguel 2099. Please God, we lived that long. During the interview, okay, right. So someone's given you a description of the interview that you're facing. So during this interview, you spend time learning about you, your work at school, history, big success or failures. Okay, so I'm guessing this is some kind of internship or graduate role. What are some questions that I can use to prepare? Lucky for you, Miguel, we have a free document that we're going to give you at the end of the session that has a whole bunch of what we call Amazon plausible interview questions. They aren't the exact Amazon interview questions that Amazonians use internally. They have a interview question bank called the Amazon Interview Question Bank that many interviewers will take their questions directly from. We cannot provide you with that, but we have created our own version of a plausible interview question bank based on our deep knowledge of the Amazon leadership principles and what interviewers are actually looking for in your behaviors for Amazon leadership principles. And we will put that up at the end, and you can go and snaffle that so you can then have a practice using those questions. You specify that it's for a digital marketing specialist role, not a manager role. It's irrelevant. The Amazon interview question bank is used for all job families and all job levels. So it doesn't really matter what level or what job family you're applying for. So please do stay and take that freebie at the end. Okay. Oh, I'll do this other one because that one was so quick, Evgeny. So, Vlad, you're welcome. You did make a mistake applying for the data engineer position. Is it too late to withdraw my application? No, it's never too late to withdraw your application. So, if that's what you decide you want to do, go ahead and do it. That said, don't let us bully you into it. I don't want you to come away from this thinking, oh, Gigi and Evgeny said I had to withdraw. That's not what we're saying. There's a lot of subjectivity about this, so please don't feel that we've bullied you into that decision. But if you genuinely don't want a data engineering role and that's not the career future you have planned for yourself, my strong advice would be don't apply for it, because the reality is that will show through in your interviews. If you're not really passionate about doing that role, they will work it out in the interviews. Okay, now you can pick the next one, Yevgeny.
Cool. All right. So this here's one from Alex. Thank you for clearing it up. So if the Amazonian knows me well and has worked with me in the past, what can he do? Okay, to squeeze me into the interview. Right. So I'll give you a hack that I've seen very effective on me when someone was referring someone to me for a role that I was hiring for. So the best sequence of events tends to be, so first of all, make sure that you don't apply to this role yourself, because then someone else's referral doesn't work. You can't, the system barks at you and it says, person has applied already. We'll already have, that person there. And then the second thing is, once your contact at Amazon has referred you and effectively applied you for a particular role, then what you can do is you can send your resume to your friend at Amazon and ask your friend at Amazon to introduce you to that hiring manager and to look out for your profile in their hiring queue. And that's worked really well, for example, for me, because if someone someone referred someone, so I had that person's profile show up in my review queue, and then They also sent me your resume by email and said, "Hey, so that you know, I've just referred such and such person to this role. I think that they would be absolutely amazing for you. I've worked with them, blah 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 blah." There's no limit to how visible your contact at Amazon can make your profile with a hiring manager, as long as it's all done nicely with skill and not too pushy. But yeah, as someone who's a hiring manager, and hiring people for Amazon is difficult, and if you can get someone like your friend at Amazon to make a nice intro, if your profile is relevant, then why wouldn't I want to interview you? But Gigi, do you have any other interesting hacks?
Yes. So I would build on that hack in the sense of exactly what your referrer says about you is really important. So what you want them to do is effectively do a pitch, a sales pitch for you as to why you are a good fit for this role based on their experience. So if you're applying for a role, and I'm just going to use marketing because that's my background, I can speak specifically to that, but if the role is specifically about search engine optimization, let's say, or paid ads, and this person has worked with you before in that field, then you want them to explain, I see the role is about, they've seen the job description, I see the role is about X, Y, and Z. I can testify to Gigi's skill in this area. I worked in multiple campaigns with her in our time at blah, blah, blah. And in this particular campaign, she just did incredibly in achieving blah, blah, using her knowledge of blah, blah. She's brilliant at building relationships. I can see earning trust is really important in the job description, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to craft that email for them, by all means, and then hopefully they can invest a little bit more time making sure that it makes sense from an Amazon point of view, then send that through to the hiring manager. Because in my experience, I've had people send referrals through to me saying this person is, I think they're an ideal for candidate for the role. And I look at their resume and I look at the role and I think, why the hell do you think that they're an ideal candidate for this role? Just because it says marketing and they've been in marketing in the past doesn't mean they're an ideal candidate. I had brand marketers who were sent to me for highly analytical, direct response digital marketing campaigns, and they'd never done direct response digital marketing in their life. They were just brand kind of creative marketers. So sending someone a pitch that really specifies genuinely why you're a good fit for that role is even more compelling than just the email that says, I've worked with this person in the past, I think they're really great, I think you should meet with them. Okay, cool, 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 cool. So on that note, we have like 30 seconds
Freebies?
left. Let's do freebies. Yeah. So let's just get the banner up. So let's take that one down and then this one up, and you're on the side, so you have to do the finger thing. Right, folks. So attached, there you go. In that URL is a bunch of free stuff that we have available for you. Two key things there. The first is a free course about the customer obsession the customer obsession leadership principle. Tells you all about the leadership principle, everything you possibly need to know to create a really, really amazing story about customer obsession. Inside it is a unique to us learning model about the leadership principles and how one goes about understanding the leadership principles. We designed it, we created it. It's unique to us. You won't find it anywhere else. The customer obsession is just one sample of that. We have exactly the same structural knowledge for all of the other leadership principles in our courses. The other piece, as I mentioned earlier, is a document that has a massive list. I can't remember how many is in it. Is it like over 100? I'm not sure.
90 plus.
90 plus. There we go. Plausible Amazon interview questions that you can use to practice and prepare for your Amazon interview. What I will say is please don't try and create answers for each and every single question. That's impossible. But what you want to do is use those questions to help practice shaping and reshaping the narrative of the examples that you have already set aside for the individual leadership principles. And then it's got a few other kind of interview preparation model structures that people find quite useful in terms of structuring their preparation. So please do go grab those for yourself. They're completely free and no strings attached. So by all means, take them. There's really no good reason not to.
One more.
Oh, yeah? Got to give away something else?
Free community with
Oh,
a custom trained bot that answers your questions, folks. Because when you go and you sign up for that free course, or if you want to grab the Amazon interview tool pack with those 90 plus questions, you will be joining the free part of our community. And inside that community, there is an Amazon interview questions channel where we have a bot that answers any questions that you have about behavioral interviews at Amazon. That bot is trained on all of our YouTube content, and all you need to do is tag that bot when you're creating a the new thread, and the bot will respond to any questions that you have. And it's all free for you guys, and just go and use those resources in your Amazon interview prep routine.
And just to say, the bot is called Andy because we
Mm,
thought if you would want anyone to answer your Amazon interview questions, it would be Andy Jassy. So it's not really Andy Jassy, it's our YouTube content, but hey, we gave it the name Andy as a homage to the great man himself.
indeed, indeed.
Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all of your questions. We've managed to fill an hour, which always means it's been a great session. So if you have interviews coming up, we have our fingers very, very tightly crossed for you. For the person who already said they were starting with Amazon in mid-May, we genuinely wish you a fantastic Amazon career. There's nowhere better, we believe, anyway, based on our extensive agent experience to learn business and learn and grow than Amazon. So we wish you the very best of luck. Ciao.
Ciao.